Oh, I did the countdown and it was already recording. Hi there, Michael Bracco. How are you?
I am okay. How are you? Here, I'm gonna show my little Bowie. Somebody asked about if I have any pets. This is Bowie, named after David Bowie because he looks like his character in Labyrinth.
Yes.
You know, with his hair. So,
Jareth, absolutely.
Gareth, yep.
Yeah, very nice. He doesn't look very pleased about you holding him so tall, though. He seems to be having a lot of feelings right now.
Yeah. Well, he's used to my daughter messing around with him, so we are way kinder.
Fair enough. Fair enough. It's so nice to see you.
It's awesome to see you.
Wonderful. Even if it's on Zoom, one of these days we'll hang out in person.
I know.
Thank you very much for taking time out to answer questions that my students sent you. So on Monday, we got to see a bunch of your stuff. We saw a bunch of the screen prints that you do for shirts, one of which I'm wearing. It's the only one that still fits. We got to see some of your very lovely comic stuff. We got to see a bunch of stuff about the creators. We got to see a bunch of stuff about upcoming The Monuments, which they were really excited to see. Some of my students have actually read these, which is really cool.
You had mentioned that to me, and I was floored by that. That makes me feel awesome.
That is really cool. I think actually one of your books, I think it's the first volume that is actually in my office when I used to have a classroom back in the day. Yeah, back way back when. So let's jump into questions. Now, I've had a very busy day, and I know that we are doing this sort of after our teaching days. So I did not have time to put these questions in any sort of logical order. So this is going to be an unusual interview.
Okay. I like unusual.
Yeah, we've met you. Or I've met you. This is the closest they'll meet you until summer vacation, at least. They run into you at shows.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm just going to do this in order as they are on my Padlet screen. Michael, why do you like monsters so much?
That's an interesting question. I think I really like the idea of like when I'm drawing, just start somewhere and see where it takes me. And when you're doing things like observational drawing, which I also really love figure drawing, but you can't do that. You have to think, like when you're making a piece of art, you have to think all over the paper and think about every inch of it at the same time and think about proportion and composition. But when I first started drawing monsters, it was just I would just start by just doodling, and a lot of people doodle patterns and things, and mine just turn into these weird figurative, toothy, grotesque, eyeball-filled, fleshy, hairy things. And so it's really like meditative for me. And I also have a little problem with attention, and my mind wanders a lot. I've always had that as an issue. And when I draw, I can listen very closely. And I remember actually when I was in middle school, I was getting B's, and my teachers conference with my parents. My parents were like, "Why is he getting B's? He's so smart. He should get A's." And they sat down with the teachers like, "Well, he draws in class all the time. I bet if he didn't draw in class, he'd probably get A's. Seems like a nice kid." And so they got mad at me and said, "Don't ever draw in class again." And I stopped drawing in class, and then I started flunking all of my classes. And they're like, no, we're really disappointed that you're a B student, but keep drawing in class, So yeah, that's so it is. It's like doodling and allowing me to focus.
Yeah, I think that seems to be a pretty common thing with like visual and creative types. I know that I was constantly drawing in school too. Like all of my notebooks during school were like half notes, half doodles, and then I would illustrate the notes when I didn't have time to write them down, because when I was in high school and when I was in college, the teachers spoke a mile a minute, and my crunchy little hands couldn't write fast enough or legibly enough. So sometimes drawing it out or doodling helped me to listen a lot better. So that's cool. So kiddos draw in class. They would have to anyway. It's art class.
That's true.
This question has a spinning brain, and it says, "Does you do art?"
No, I do art. Art.
Good distinction. Okay. Yeah. Does your brain spin?
Sometimes it feels that way.
Sometimes it. Okay. All right. Fair enough. Another question someone has is, in your family, are there other artists? Is this something that's mostly you, or is this sort of like a family tradition?
So that in my excuse me, in my immediate household, my wife is also an artist. Obviously, that didn't pass down to me or anything, but she's a potter, and so we work often together and next to each other. But no, my it it does run in my family. My uncle is a woodworker and sculptor, and my grandmother was a sculptor as well. And she was this frail little 5 foot nothing, 90 pounds soaking wet woman who was very active in the Catholic Church I went to growing up. And they would have like, they would ask her to make sculptures of like all the biblical figures. And this teeny little sickly woman would make 8 foot tall plasticine sculptures of like the Last Supper. So like, 13 figures, and they would be all up around the altar. And then she would go and pose next to them, and she would just look like this teeny little precious thing next to these
Oh my
giant sculptures.
goodness.
Yeah.
Are these still around? Are these things that we could still see?
I don't know. I mean, they're probably somewhere, but there's photos of them somewhere. I'll see if I can.
Oh man, I would love to see those. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
they're intense. And they're beautifully sculpted. She had a very like gestural feel, so you could see all of her fingerprints and finger marks, but they
love it.
still looked very realistic and beautiful. Yeah.
So it sounds like you come from a long line of mostly like sculptor type folks. Have you ever tried much of sculpting?
I'm a terrible sculptor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I really am. I remember my wife, who is also a sculptor, she's a potter. So on the Potter's Wheel, there's a famous movie. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. I know you probably have, but the movie Ghost. There's the romantic scene where the couple is around the Potter's Wheel, and Sean was like, "Oh, I'll teach you how to throw." Sean is my wife, and it'll be so romantic, like Ghost. And in Ghost, it's beautiful and romantic. With this, I was like, I hate this. I can't do it. And I was just throwing clay.
Yeah, that's why they call it throwing, because every time I've tried it, I pick it up and I throw it at a wall, and I'm like, well, great.
Yeah. Oh, it's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah, can't do it. It's an impossible job. She's very good at it though. I've seen her pottery, and I miss being able to see it in person. All right, so there is a joke section of this interview, but we'll have to do that towards the end. There's
Okay.
they're like sprinkled in, unless we have little like tiny joke breaks. But you are in the art industry. What's the best thing about being in the art industry?
I think so. There's all sorts of different ways to be in the art industry. I think of myself, and which is similar to what you do, is like we're more like entrepreneurial, where we make something and go out and try to find ways to sell it. And the nice thing about that is I get to make something, sell it to the person who is going to enjoy it or give it as a gift. And then because I can see them again and do like shows like conventions and street fairs and all that kind of stuff, craft shows, they come back and they respond and they tell me what they like about it. And when I do comic book conventions and stuff, there's always people that will be at them and they'll come running up to my booth all excited because they're wearing, like, they chose to wear my shirt at the convention, and they're like, look, this is your shirt, and this is what I chose to wear at the convention, and I'm really excited to show you that I'm wearing it. And I think that the connections I make with people is the best part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've boothed next to you on several occasions, and when people come back to see an artist, like, it's like Christmas for them. They're so excited to see you. They're like, my friend, or I love the thing you made. Let me tell you about it. It's the best.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another question here is, since you draw comic-like drawings, have you ever watched anime or read a comic book? Is what the question says.
So yes, I have. I'm not like an anime or manga aficionado, but I do have a few that I love. Some of them are pretty what you'd expect. One of my favorite movies ever is a movie called Akira.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
And one of my favorite books ever is called Battle Angel Alita.
Yeah. Also beautifully drawn.
Yeah. And so and then, but as far as like comics in general, yes, I do read a lot of comics, but I'm actually more of a movie person than I am a comic person. And I I try to, as far as like I try not to overdo it with comics because I make comics and I don't want
Mhm.
the thing I do to be informed by the exact same thing. It was actually a piece of advice I got from another comic artist named Brian Ralph. And his whole thing was like, yeah, if you want to make comics, don't just read comics. Watch movies, read books, you know,
Yeah.
look at watch musicals and operas and get ideas from that. And I always took that to heart.
Yeah, I think it's probably a good thing. You don't want to accidentally like I know it's like a really common thing for authors to be like, never tell me a story because I don't want to accidentally sprinkle that into what I do.
Right.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Very cool. This question says robot. That's the only thing it says.
Oh, 0111010.
What's that spell? Other than wee.
The robot will understand. It's between the robot.
Okay, fair enough. Do you have a business?
I do. I do. My business is called Spaghetti Kiss. Yeah, it's on the tag on the back. Yeah, it's
Yeah, we got to see you print the logo.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Oh, that's right. Yeah. So that is my business, Spaghetti Kiss.
Hooray! How old were you when you started to screen print?
I was 21 years old. It was my senior year of college. I needed to take because I'm also a middle school art teacher, and I needed to take a printmaking class before I graduated in order to get my teaching degree. And I was like, I don't know, I'll try screen printing. And I took a screen printing class, and I was like instantly hooked. And at this point now, I've probably screen printed 25 to 35,000 t-shirts since then.
I believe that. You know, I was actually when I was gardening and working outside earlier, I was wearing another one of the shirts that you had screen printed for Art Fight. And I was like, I would wear this on the interview, but it's covered in mud. And that's not really a great advertisement. I love this shirt. It's covered in dirt. Could you actually tell us, so we know that you start the screen prints and everything you do with a drawing, but how do you go about actually making the screen print? Because they're doing foam version block prints right now, but how do you translate that to a screen?
Okay, so sometimes this is a little bit hard to describe, but I will do my best.
Okay.
Basically what I do is I take a drawing, I scan it in, I make sure it's all like really nice and clean, and I print it out on Mylar, which is somewhat see-through paper.
Okay.
And then I'll take a screen, and what a screen is it's kind of like stretcher bars, like a frame.
You know what? I had one downstairs. I should have brought it up.
Oh, I could go grab one if you could. Here, count to 10. I'll be back.
1, 4, 7, 2, 3. I don't know what comes next. 9, 5. I could do it in Welsh. Un, dig, die, pedwar, hem,
I'm here.
scythe, oi, now, dig. I did it in Welsh. All right.
All right. So here I got a little one. You can see.
Oh, okay, cool.
Little scolopus, right?
Yeah.
So you can see the wooden frame, and then there's this fabric, and the fabric is like a gridded fabric, like a mesh screen.
Okay.
And you put something on it called emulsion. So you take a squeegee, and the emulsion is soft. So you put it on and you leave it in the dark, and it dries. But if you hit it with a hose, it'll just blow away, right? And I'm a little out of breath from running up and downstairs.
Take your time. Take your breath.
And then you take that Mylar with the drawing on it and you put it against it, and then you turn on a light and shine it on it. And what the light does is it hardens the emulsion, the stuff that I squeegee on, everywhere except where I have the drawing blocking the light.
Okay.
And so because it's blocking the light, it's blocking it in exactly the places that the drawing is. So then I take it and I spray it with a hose, and all the stuff that got hardened stays and is waterproof. And the stuff that got blocked blows out and creates a really high detail stencil. Nice. And then I put a little bit of ink and a squeegee, and I press it against the shirt and do that. And then I hit it with a heat gun, and then it's there forever.
Nice. A little bit of science, a little bit of chemistry, a little bit of magic.
Yeah, a little bit of mathing.
That's that little sprinkling garnish on there. Very cool.
Yeah.
We answered the question, do you have pets? We saw Bowie. What is the favorite printing design that you think you've done?
Oh man. That's an interesting question. What is my favorite thing I've done? I think the only answer to that is I don't know. I think if I had a favorite, it means I can't have one, because that's the whole point. Is like, oh, what am I going to do next? What am I going to outdo this with? But I think right now, I'll say I just did this cicada design that I'm really excited about.
Yes, we did see that one. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay, yeah. And it wasn't really like a lot of the other things that I draw. And because it was very much like me looking at a lot of scientific drawings and doing like a very specific type of research to make sure that I got it right while also making it very monstery at the same time. Yeah. And so, I was proud of it, and I had a lot of fun doing that. But ask me again next week and it might be something totally different.
I liked the cicada one that you did because it's very clearly your art, but it's also very clearly a cicada too. So it's kind of like a really good blend between both of those things. Hi,
Thank
people
you.
who are home.
Yes, my family has arrived.
Hello, family.
Hello. Hello.
Hi.
They will pass behind.
Okay. Hello. We were talking
Shauna
about
the Potter.
a moment ago.
Hi.
Hi, Amelia.
Hi.
It's Amelia the jumping bean.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Wait, I don't see any jumping.
Erin went up to jump all the way home.
She jumped all the way home from.
Oh, okay. Well, she's tired. She's worn out. Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay. And so, I mean, I know you've been doing art. You had mentioned that you did art in school. You did art for, college stuff. You teach art. What got you into art in general?
I think there's just a couple different things. I remember, but the one memory I had that's like a really sweet, happy memory was I went to a new school when I was in first grade. My parents sent me to this little private school, and which I was not happy about. And everybody there was very into sports and athletic, and I was not an athletic kid. And I didn't know anybody. And there was this other new kid, this little girl named Annabelle, who was British and an artist. And it just loved to draw and was really good at it. We were in first grade, and I remember her being like, "Oh, I will spend time with you," and just came over and sat me down, and she's like, "I like to draw. Do you like to draw?" And I was like, "I don't know." And so I would just she would draw a line and I would draw a line, and that was it. I was hooked. And I remember, and I still to this day remember this kid, and she moved away after the first 3 months that I knew her. So I only knew her for this brief time. And then after that, it was just I never stopped. So this is
a really sweet story. I love it. Wherever you are, Annabelle, thank you very much.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm getting a little bit chilly. So I'm going to use this as an opportunity to go grab one of your hoodies, put that on. I have a separate question to ask you. It's a very important question, and I'll get the prop for this question in just a moment.
Okay.
So, I will be right back.
Okay.
Tiptoe away. Oh my goodness, what a high quality hoodie. If only I could wear it to prevent myself from getting cold. My arms are stuck in the sleeves. Help me.
You always like this?
No.
Yeah.
Only on Tuesday afternoons. Is it Tuesday? I don't even know. I think it is. Cozy hoodie. Oh my goodness. Fashion conscious. All right. So you are the resident expert on monsters. And all year, we've had a mascot for our classroom that we've just affectionately referred to as the creature.
Okay.
What are your opinions on the creature? Got googly eyes and very skinny arms. He's very great.
He has, yeah. I feel like he is just trying to get my attention. Like, hi, over there. Hi, can you hear me? I got a question. So I just want to answer his question.
Oh, well, maybe he can help do the interview with us. Are you okay with that? Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So our next question is, did you want to do something else other than art as a kid?
That is a good question. Yeah, I wanted to be a musician. I wanted to write songs and be in a band and that kind of thing. And that is a very, very that was something I kind of gave up for most of my life because I was like, nah, I'd rather draw. But that was my number 2 thing, is I wanted to be in a band.
Nice. Well, I've heard you play instruments. You're very good at them.
Oh, thank you.
You're very welcome. I would like to learn how to play an instrument too. I can play my face and that's it. That's all I can do. And I don't know that I can sustain that for very long. But
I'm just picturing you on a drum set now, and it makes me
it hurts. It hurts. Oh, with an actual drum set?
yeah.
That would be fun. I would love to learn. As someone who is frequently like, hitting things, I might actually be very good at it.
Yeah.
Great hoodie I found.
Oh, look at that. That's beautiful.
Very cool. I don't know where I got it from. It's
I
so
don't know.
cool.
I heard the guy who made it's a jerk though.
No. I don't know. All right. So other questions that people have. This is a long question, so I got to read it out first a little
Okay.
bit. I can reword it a little shorter for you. A lot of your stuff is very cool and it reminds me a lot of things like Star Wars. Is there any work inspired by pieces like Star Wars or other pieces in pop culture, or do these things just come in your mind?
So you had said I looked through the slideshow you showed them, and I was like, wow, she really found like most of the fan art that I've ever done, because it's not a thing I do I enjoy drawing other people's characters a lot, but I was like, wow, that this is, yeah, she found a lot of it. And I love, first of all, I'm a big Star Wars nerd. I love Star Wars, and I love science fiction in general, and I prefer drawing something that is original to something that somebody else made up. I'm more comfortable doing that. I have more fun coming up with ideas. And so I think that, yeah, a lot of what I do is based off of other things, but not with like the intention of it. It's more like I love to fill my head with 1,000,001 different science fiction ideas and then go and start drawing, or 1,000,001 different monster movies, and then like either draw just and let that flow through, or be like, I didn't like any of that, I'm going to make something that I like.
Nice. Now this isn't a question that anyone asked, but do you have a favorite science fiction movie if you had to pick? I know that's a big question. I don't know. I couldn't answer that question.
I will say that I don't know if I have an answer to that question. I know recently, and I think you and I will very much connect on this, but my favorite science fiction movie, I think, of the past like 10 years was Mad Max, Fury Road.
Yeah.
I just love anything that can have that much, be that cool and that fun and that over the top, but have that much meaning and give you that much reason to like talk about the movie afterwards.
And everything in that movie is beautiful. Like, it's so desolate, but at the same time, every prop and every thought that was put into something that was created is meant to be beautiful. It's a sort of like mixture of desolation and beauty at the same time.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree.
Can we watch that movie next time we hang out?
Yeah.
Oh boy, what kind of brush pen do you like to use best?
Oh, let me see if I have one. I don't have the, oh, there it is. I use a disposable Kuretake brush pen. I love these things. And I get them on there's a great website called jetpens.com.
Oh, good to know.
And yeah, and it's just a great place to go, and they have like hundreds of different types of brush pens.
Ooh.
And there's one of my favorite things about being in comics and going to like conventions is the sense of community with other creators, and everybody's showing each other what tools they use and stuff. And so I learned to use these quite a while ago at a show. Some friends of mine were like, oh, you would like using a brush pen, here, try this. And it was one of those like, okay, oh, this is
Can we see what it looks like? Because I think I've used one of those before, but my students haven't, so they might be interested to see like what the actual like writing looks like.
It's this like nice dark blue, and then this one's been used a lot. Yeah, I'll put it right up here.
There you go.
But it comes to like a really fine point. It's like a silicone tip, so it has a nice bend to it.
Okay.
I also like a thicker one like this. Oops.
Yeah.
And this one you get like a really juicy thick line.
That's the kind I like best. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I when I draw large scale, I love to use like a big, fat, thick watercolor brush and like just a bowl of like speedball ink. And I like drippy like craziness and yeah, all that.
Ooh. We should draw together more. We
It's been a
should.
while.
Yeah, it has been. Now this is also maybe an impossible question to answer, but you've
Okay.
made a bajillion comics. Do you have a favorite comic that you've made so far?
Oh yeah, the creators, I is the thing that that has been. So I'm almost done with the whole thing,
Ooh,
and I started it in April of 2012. So when I finish it, it'll have taken me a decade to make that. And there's 3 books, and it's just like a part of it is the whole thing is kind of, the meaning is about art education and like the different types of people that I've known in my class, and like just it the main character was based of me, but I came up with the idea for the main character when I found out I was gonna, or for the book, I mean, when I found out I was gonna be a dad, and I was going through old children's books that I loved, and I picked up Harold and the Purple Crayon, and which is about, if in case kids don't know, because I'm
I
always
had to
shocked.
explain Harold and the Purple Crayon to my kids because that's how I was kind of describing your comic a little bit to the people that hadn't read it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so and I was like, oh man, I love this book. A kid just picks up a pencil and a purple pen and or crayon and draws, and it like comes to life. If that ever happened in the real world, it would be horrible, because we treat kids, like our world, our society doesn't always treat kids great. And so the book was me talking about how if kids actually had the same amount of power that they had imagination, and were treated the way that some kids are, that it would be really bad, and then society would just blame the kids instead of trying to help them, and then it would kind of go on and on. And then the main character was when I found out that I was going to have a little girl, and I started thinking about who she would be and what kind of world she would be a part of. And so I designed the main character, Maya, to be what I thought my 15-year-old daughter would look like. And now my daughter's 8 and kind of looks a lot like the main character. So yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, I've enjoyed reading it. I have the first 2 books, and I'll be excited to see number 3 when it arrives. It also helps because I'm cold. All right. This is a question that is kind of silly. Do you have, and I can't actually quantify this number, but how many shirts do you think you have at home when you print things?
Oh, well, okay. So I think I've printed somewhere between 20 and 40,000 t-shirts and articles in my career.
We've been doing it for 15 years. We saw.
Yeah, I've been, this year is the 15th year of the business. And so that means that at any given point, there's usually about, I'd say between 250 and 1,000 shirts in my house, not including the ones that I have in like my drawers that are my personal t-shirts. Right. And I have a lot of those too, because, not only do I make shirts, so I just take from my own stock, but I also love getting shirts from other artists. And so I have a pretty sizable collection of t-shirts.
Yeah, it's cool to be able to wear someone's art.
Yes.
So, I mean, having clothing that you can wear that someone else designed is a really cool way to do that. Like, not everyone can do tattoos. Not everyone can like have like pins and stuff on. It's a cool way to wear people's art. I know I've worn your stuff to my school before. And sometimes people will be like, oh, where did you get that? I was like, I got it from my good pal, Michael Bracco. You can find his information. I don't do that voice because no one can understand what I'm saying, but I'll usually let them know where it comes from. Right. And that's with anyone who has made something I've worn to school.
I'm sorry, I gotta interrupt you. Can you give me like 3 seconds? I just heard my daughter going down to bed. I just want to give her a kiss. Good night.
Oh, darling. Wonderful. Good night, Amelia. What are some of the other questions we have on here? I'm going to scroll down on my end of things.
Thank you. Sorry.
Oh, you're okay. How dare you say goodnight to your daughter whom you love? Goodness. The audacity of it. On a shirt, you said that you print them on here and they use a heat gun to make it stay on there forever. So I can't get rid of this. It's just, I wanted to just a regular gray hoodie and this thing was on it. What kind of ink do you use?
So there's two main types of ink that screen printers use for clothing.
Mhm.
One is called plastisol and the other is called water-based. All right. And the plastisol, I use water-based inks, and water-based inks are great because when you print them and you kind of heat set them, they kind of like join with the shirt.
Yeah.
And then when you first get them, when you first get them, you can kind of feel it, but after a couple of washes, it feels like part of the shirt. You can barely feel it anymore.
Yeah, you can't unless you use your nail. You wouldn't be able to tell where it begins and where it stops.
Right,
It's
right,
just a
exactly.
slight texture difference.
Right, and but the colors are, you can kind of see through it a little bit, so
Little
it
bit.
kind of blends with the shirt. It's a little translucent, and because my stuff is so like black and white and lots of lines, I really like that. And then there's plastisol, which is like an oil-based ink that doesn't ever dry. And so the hard part with water-based inks is that they air dry. So they can dry on the screen and ruin your screen. So you have to keep things really clean.
Oh, okay.
Where oil-based, those are the t-shirts where it feels like you have a big sheet of plastic.
I hate them. They're
hate
like
them,
really
yeah.
warm and then they
Yeah.
like wrinkle. I don't
And
like
they
it.
crack. Yeah.
I don't like it. I don't like it.
Yeah.
Not one bit.
No. And those you can leave the inks in the screen for like a year and it won't dry out. You could just pick it up and keep like printing them, and yeah. And then as soon as you hit it with heat, it just dries and solidifies. But I use the water-based inks. Plus, I just work out of my basement. So water-based inks you can just spray off in a utility sink, like a
Mhm.
basement sink, and just let it go down the drain, and it's not dangerous or chemically or anything like that.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. I like it. I like knowing a little bit how that works. That's great.
Yeah.
Let's see what else. Do you remember what your first shirt design was?
Yes, I did. I saw that question earlier, and I actually grabbed it.
You did. Oh
Yeah.
boy.
So the first T-shirt that I ever screen printed was a drawing that I did for my best friend, who was the best man at my wedding, and he wanted me to draw him a pirate ship for a tattoo, and he has it from like navel to nipple, like right here, huge. And it was his it was like his third tattoo, but
I think I know the
then I
one.
would print it on things later, and now I'm having trouble. I want to get it. Man,
Suspense.
oh, that's why I didn't have any of these left except for this one like double XL, so it's hard to show.
Yeah.
So there it is.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. So that was the first one I ever did, and I remember when I wanted to print it, I felt weird because I had done it for him, and I called him up. At the time he lived in California, and I was like, "Would it be cool if I printed it on T-shirts and tried to sell it?" And I was really expecting him to be like, "No, it's mine. I don't want you to do that." But he said, "Yeah," and then I never stopped printing.
I love it. Very cool.
Thank you.
How some of these questions are worded a bit odd because they're middle schoolers. Questions are good, but sometimes the word order is a little tricky.
That's okay.
Well, let's go with this really quick one while I figure out what the other ones are say. Michael Bracco, how old are you?
Man, I used to never mind answering this. It's not my favorite thing to answer anymore because I ain't no spring chicken anymore. I'm gonna be 42 this July.
Well, that number means the meaning of life. It's a really important.
Oh, that's right. You're right. Kids,
It
you
really
should all
has
read.
been 42.
You should all read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
It is pretty great.
Wonderful, wonderful book.
And you know what? May 25th is Towel Day, so
Oh, that's right.
it's a good time to be into The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
I am now excited to be 42.
Happy to
I
help.
was not.
Happy to help. I mean, all bets are off when you're 43. Then you can go back to being really miserable about it. But
Okay, yeah. No, you're right. But I'm
This
going to be very
year-
excited to be 42.
free pass. Bum, 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 bum. What happens if you are printing on a shirt and you mess up? What happens? Other
So
than crying.
no. So there's lots of things that can happen. So if I print on a shirt and I realized that there was a little hole in the emulsion. So sometimes when you burn the screen, there's like little holes that you have to plug up just to, just because the emulsion didn't get through or there was a crumb on it, and stuff like that. And there's stuff you can use to fill it and fix it up. But if like I'm printing all here and I get one little dot here, sometimes I can take like an old toothbrush and a little like a spray gun, a spray bottle with water, and I'll spray it and I'll just scrape it and it'll come up because it has
Okay.
a heat set. If I royally screw something up, then I just have a, a basket next to me that it goes into, I use as a rag to like clean off things as I'm going. And so like sometimes when I mess something up, I'm like, I kind of needed a new rag. The other one's getting a little crusty anyway. So,
Nice.
yeah.
You will clean up my other mistakes now. Ah,
Yeah.
I like it. That's good. Let's see. So you probably have to get loads and loads and loads of materials from, hoodies to shirts to ties to
Yeah.
face masks to scarves to all the things that you put your designs on, and all the ink and all the screens and all the stuff. Where do you go to get just buckets and buckets of supply and art materials for this?
So a lot of the stuff, because like as much as it sounds like I do a lot of this, the operation is still pretty small. Like when I go downstairs to print, if I do like a full day of printing, I'm still like only printing for like 3 or 4 hours, 5 hours, and I'm printing like 50 to 100 t-shirts. So like even though I probably print like 1,500 shirts a year, it's just in like little spurts. So that said, I usually buy shirts by like, I don't know, sometimes I'll buy 50 at a time, and sometimes I'll buy like 350 at a time. And so there's like websites that once you have a registered business, you can get them like very, very inexpensively. And then art materials though, like I still just go to Plaza and Utrecht, and so just like local art stores.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. So it's not like there's no like real big secret or anything there. So that's good. So it's
No, but you can go to other places, but usually it's like, where do I get blank t-shirts? And you look it up, and then you meet other people who are doing the same thing, and I like this guy better and this site better, and that kind of thing.
I mean, in the years that I've known you, which is bonkers, because I was thinking about it, I think I've known you for like 13 years now. Like
Yeah.
you've used different kinds of clothing as well, and like your clothing suppliers or what you get changes. Like I know that this is like an older style hoodie and this is an older style shirt, and you went to go like with thicker hoodies or thinner hoodies, and they've changed throughout the years, which is kind of cool. So even if someone has like the same design on a shirt like I do, because I outgrew a bunch of them, it's still going to be a whole different piece of clothing. Like this design on this shirt, I think I had at one point 3 different versions of this, because I was still kind of growing up when I first met you. So.
Oh, that's true. How old are you when we first met?
I think I want to say I was either 17 or 18, because I was not quite a grown up yet.
No.
And now I'm not growing taller, but I am growing wider generally as it goes. So I'm just stretching out a little bit in the wrong direction.
No.
Because I get to buy more shirts.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh boy. What's next? We're running out of questions, and I know that we've been on for a while. We might not get to finish this interview with one class, which is fine, because we have a lot of demos and stuff to do, and they're working on studio stuff.
Yeah.
Let's see. You had painted a car, which was really, really cool. I know a bunch of people had questions about that, and the cool like staircase that you had.
Oh yeah, okay.
The official thing for staircase, not like
No, you're right.
Yeah. When you painted your car, it looked like you were using like acrylics and things. How do they keep your painting on a car from falling apart?
It was a very interesting thing. So the person who hired me to paint their car, they had painted cars before, and she was just like, oh yeah, I just used like the cheap acrylic paints that you get at like Michael's in the little bottles.
On the floor there, they were like pretty basic stuff.
Yeah. Which I love those, because I love taking like the pre-mixed colors and then mixing them further to try to. Yeah, I also very much like mixing paint from just like 4 basic colors, but you give me a full rainbow, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Anyway, the car, it's just acrylic paint, and then I had gotten my hands on this ink, which was so there's this guy who created like black number 77 or something. I don't remember what it's called, but he created this ink. It was paint that's so black that light doesn't reflect off of it. And then he tried to charge like millions of dollars for
I
people.
should tell them about this story because
Yeah.
this is a soap opera for
It
artists.
is. Yeah, it is. And then so another guy was like so mad that this guy made this paint that all these artists could use and then was charging so much money for it. And he figured out the compound for it, and he like changed one little thing and he made it like almost as nice, so it's still incredible, and then charged like almost nothing for it and completely like took the wind out of the sails for this guy that was trying
And
to
that guy's not allowed to buy it.
yeah, and yeah, he was the one guy that was like, that's right.
Mhm.
So anyway, the guy who had me paint his stairs, his one stipulation was that when I did the line work, like the black drawing, that I use this stuff. And if I
That makes
did,
a lot of sense. Yeah.
yeah, if I did, he'd give me whatever I didn't use. And so I had this bottle of it, which is then what I painted to do the line work on the car.
Oh.
And which is why it's so easy to see the line work. The stuff is incredible.
Yeah, it looks good. Like I just thought that you had edited the photograph to like up the contrast and stuff, but I'm like, now I just want to go over and just sort of do my best to look at it while my eyes get really confused.
Well, and you like it's painted on a shiny car, so you can see where the light will like bounce off of the car and then it'll hit that black and it's just nothing. It's really cool.
Yeah, that'll be like a tangent we go on in our class at some point. That'll be maybe a thing we do on Tuesday.
I think that that'd be so. Okay, so she gave me these and I painted it with acrylic, and she brought it home. She's like, oh, I've done this before, it's fine. When we're all done, I'll put like a sealant over it. She took it home after the first day of painting it. I had done everything but the line work, and it rained, and the whole thing just bubbled up.
Oh no!
So we had to sand down the whole thing and like repaint it the next day, and then I did the drawing on it. And then it was fine, and she took it home and she sealed it. And then since then I've had a couple of people who are like, I just saw your narwhal driving around, and, so people will see it driving around the DC area every once in a while.
I'll have to keep an eye on it. Not that I've left the house in a year, right. But if I ever make my way to DC, I will not look at where I'm going on the road, and I'll keep an eye out for this car.
Yeah, that's what a good driver does.
Yeah, I'm super good at driving. So let's see. You had answered all the questions that a lot of people had asked about the car. So we had heard that you had been doing this for 15 years. Was 15 years ago when you started your art career?
15 years ago is when I kind of figured out how to do it in a way that was sustainable.
Okay.
Like I had been when I graduated college, it was like I got a job teaching, and so that was part of my art career, obviously, but in a very different way. But I was making comics, and I made and self-published little comics trying to find a publisher, and spent like years doing that. And then I found my publisher right around the same time that I started screen printing t-shirts, and so it was all that kind of came together, and I started just figuring out how to like make work that I could then turn around and find a way to sell. And then before that, I was actually doing, I'll say gallery work for a couple of years, but it was just in like restaurants and stuff. And I was screen printing on paper and then hanging up. And my first gallery show was in an ice cream shop with all sorts of weird monsters and stuff.
I like it. We saw some of your threatening and sinister food, and that was some of the class's favorites. You know what? Speaking of which, we have a joke section for you.
Oh, bring it.
Back to. So we've been learning about different groups of colors. So the context of this one might be a little bit tricky, but what did one tube of paint say to the other when they were in a very heated argument?
Oh man. What did one tube of paint say to the other when they were in a very heated argument? Does it have something to do with cooling off with cool colors?
It should, but no. He said, "Don't take that tone with me."
No, that's I love it. That is awesome. Are these jokes you guys came up with, or did you find them?
These are jokes that my students specifically asked me to ask you.
Okay.
And at the top here,
take that tone with me.
Michael Bracco.
Oh, that joke is huge. I that's all I got.
You know, I got a little bit of dirt on my hands. I might have to go and gouache my hands later.
Ooh.
Yeah. Anyway, Michael Bracco, what is an artist's favorite drink?
I mean, real talk, coffee, but I would say it's probably um, watercolor.
You yes, yes, it is.
That was the only one I could think of because water. Yeah, okay, watercolor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the answer is watercolor. Very good, very good. That is our joke section.
Only two?
I blame the students. You know what, students? If you have more jokes to ask Michael Bracco, we'll do a follow-up video.
I'm just saying you can't have two and call it a section.
I mean, it's more than one, and it's in a very, very small group. I didn't say it was a big section. It's a snippet. It's an interlude. It's an intermission.
Yes, okay, I'll give you that. It's an intermission. It's a joke.
A joke intermission.
That means we're only halfway through this and we've got like 20 more questions then.
Oh, I don't have 20 more questions. We've gone through pretty much all of them. Okay, what's your favorite color?
Oh, I have two. Black and purple.
Okay. Here's another question that I've been asking my students. I have red hair dye and I have blue hair dye. What color should I dye my hair for the last month of school?
A little bit of both is the correct answer.
That is the correct answer, but it's very difficult to do when you're one person. Well, if I cry about it, then the hair dye will wash out.
I'm just saying, kids, am I right? It's like half red. Yeah, you could do it half and half.
Won't I look like a very, very terrible Harlequin, though?
No, you'll look like a very, very awesome Kelsey.
Now they know my first name. You've spoiled my identity. It's not like it says it on my badge, but now they're going to know all of my personal details.
Saying, guys, put the pressure on.
I'm going to tell you what the S in Michael S. Bracco stands for. Skittles. Stands for Skittles.
And sometimes soup.
Ooh,
I like soup.
Or Skittle soup.
Mm-hmm.
But it's savory soup, not like a fruit juice.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad. All right. Well, I think we've gone over every question that they have asked.
I like that we're going to end on Skittle soup.
Skittle soup. I mean, you know, my students did a really weird menu project that I will have to send you some pretty choice.
Do you do a menu project? I do a menu project. I love it.
We could both be middle school art teachers.
I know.
Oh my goodness. I'll have to send you some of them because they made some like normal menus. They made some nightmare menus, and then they made menus that are indescribable.
I can't wait.
Fantastic. Like I would eat at every single one of these restaurants exactly once because I wouldn't survive going there twice. But they are terrific. It was one of my favorite things that they've done all year. Thank you, Bracco. Thank you so much for talking with us.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Last but not least, what advice do you have for my middle school kiddos who are almost at the end of the school year, who are figuring out, you know, what their hobbies are, what they're really going to start getting into for essentially the rest of their lives? They're really starting to figure stuff out. What advice do you have for middle schoolers?
I think if you want to be an artist or anything really, one of the things that I see my students go through a lot is they're not as good as they want to be at this moment. And it keeps them from, sometimes it's discouraging and makes them not want to do it anymore. And if you love to do something and aren't as good at it as you want to be, or feel like you suck at it or whatever, like whatever it is, I think that should signal you to keep doing it and not to feel discouraged, because you're supposed to stink at something before you're good at something.
Correct.
And I've seen so many of my kids, like if I keep on them and almost like hold them to keep doing it, make that breakthrough where they're like, oh, that I did do something that I like. And I think you just gotta, like, that's the best advice I can give is if you feel like you're terrible at something, but you're enjoying doing it, keep doing it, because eventually you won't be terrible at it.
Yeah. That's a
And
good
you'll be
way to
awesome
put
at it.
Yeah. I mean, everyone is terrible at everything at the beginning. I mean, if you ever try to see a toddler do anything, that's why babies are crying and screaming all the time. They can't do anything. But, you know, I mean, yeah. Speaking as a former baby, That's
Yeah.
probably why I was very angry. But like,
I was never a baby, so I don't know. I was born with this beard.
you were born this size?
Yeah.
Even
No,
with
I was smaller, but I was like 3'8".
okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. That was a weird dynamic. That's why they
You're welcome.
right. So I completely lost my train of thought. That was like a gut punch. But anyway, yeah. But you know, everyone starts off somewhere with art, and I'm always really impressed at the beginning of the year what people can produce, and at the end of the year what they can produce. Yeah. And it's always just vastly different. And it's kind of a cool, like, sort of magic for us to see as grown-ups, because time passes differently for us than it does for our students. You know, because we're just so much closer to death than they are. We're so old. But yeah, like the stuff that they do at the beginning of the year is so much different than the stuff that they're doing now. It's really cool. So.
Well, there's so much, I know for me, like with my students, there's so much hand holding in the beginning and giving kids techniques and giving them the ability to just do something. And then by the end, it's like, well, here's the parameters. How do you want to do it? And then watching them go and do these big things and take total ownership over it. But you can't do that without stumbling and failing and figuring out and getting better. And, you know, yeah.
You get knocked down and you get up again. You're never going to keep me down. As the
great words of Chumbawamba.
Yep, great words of Chumbawamba. And on that note, this has been really wonderful talking to you. I think my students are really going to like this interview. It's almost as well as bedtime at this point. The sun has set, and all the bugs are trying to fly in through the window. So with that, we are going to say goodbye. It's been wonderful seeing you.
You too.
He can't see you right now. Now he can.
Oh, bye, bud. Bye, creature.
Bye. I'm going to stop recording, and I'll say proper goodbyes to you. This has been so wonderful. Thank you so much for taking time and talking.
Anytime.
Okay.